film director named Ed Wood Jr.?
Yes, I have heard of Ed Wood Jr.
What do you think his best film is?
Ming! Probably Orgy of the Dead. It's the one I watch over and over again. I like Plan 9 from Outer Space, and I like Leonard Glenda. I like all of them, but I think the screenplay for Orgy of the Dead pretty much says it all, especially the part where the Wolfman says, "Oh, I hate snakes."
Thank you very much. Have you ever heard of Ed Wood Jr.?
Who?
Film director named Ed Wood Jr.
No.
Have you ever seen Plan 9 from Outer Space?
No, but I know what it is and I've heard of it.
That's it? Thank you very much.
Sure.
Have you ever heard of a film director named Ed Wood Jr.?
Yes, I hear you.
You have?
Yes, I hear.
What do you think his best film is?
Not really, but
Nothing?
nothing for now.
All right, thank you. First of all, sir, have you heard of a film director named Ed Wood Jr.?
Yes, I have.
What do you think his best film is?
Can't answer that accurately because I haven't seen them all. Of the ones I've actually seen, I'd probably pick Bride of the Monster as the best one.
Why do you say that?
Comes the closest to actually looking like a real movie.
All right, thank you very much. All right, we have just seen the evidence. There are still people out there in the world today who have no idea who Edward D. Wood Jr. really was. Now, we hope to change all that with this videotape. In fact, even if you already know who Ed Wood Jr. was, by the time we get to the end of this program, you may have a new understanding and even an appreciation of what Ed Wood was able to do on his micro-budgeted films. Very briefly stated, Ed Wood was a novelist and an exploitation film writer and director. The subjects that he tended to exploit most frequently were sex and horror. He worked with a wide diversity of talent, including Lyle Talbot, Bela Lugosi, and Tor Johnson. Some of the titles include Orgy of the Dead, perhaps one of his most notorious pictures, Glenn or Glenda, a film about sex change, and maybe his most famous film, Plan 9 from Outer Space, which many critics consider to be the worst movie ever made in the entire world. Ed Wood died in the mid-1970s, but he's more popular now, today, than at any time during his career or his lifetime. Recently, while researching a book on horror pictures, my partner, Buddy Barnett, and I came into contact with an actor by the name of Conrad Brooks. Now, Conrad bears the distinction of having appeared in all 6 of the films produced or directed by Ed Wood. And we decided to go ahead and do this picture with him. It's through the eyes of Conrad Brooks that we're going to reconstruct the life and career of Ed Wood. Conrad opened up his file cabinet and brought out some photographs that no magazine has ever shown before, no TV program has ever broadcast. Here's one example. We'll take a look at a couple of these. This one is a studio shot from KTTV Television here in Los Angeles, the station down on Sunset and Van Ness Avenue, formerly the Nassau studio. It's taken during the production of a half-hour TV show called The Sun Was Setting, which happens to have been written, produced, and directed by Ed Wood. Tom Keene and Phyllis Coates are off to the left. That's the director himself, Ed Wood, right there, sitting down with the smoking a cigarette. Cameraman is Ray Flynn, and that is definitely a Mitchell motion picture camera. Even though they're shooting this for television, this is a film camera. Here's another picture, a real collector's item. That's a very young Conrad Brooks on the right, his brother Henry on the left, and again, dead center is the director himself, Mr. Ed Wood. Here's another picture, another real collector's item. Tor Johnson, Lobo from the movies, but this isn't from any soundstage. Here is a picture of Tor Johnson along with Conrad's wife, Ruth, their young daughter, Connie, and this is a picture taken by Conrad out at their house in Santa Monica in the mid-1950s at a barbecue where Tor Johnson was the chef. Here's one final picture. Ed Wood is the barber, and Conrad is the manicurist, and some poor actor is getting the beauty treatment. Although it looks like a picture from a silent screen comedy, this is just another picture taken at somebody's house. Again, mid-1950s. Notice Ed Wood, if you can tell in this over the air, this is Ed Wood took his teeth out for this picture. We're going to look at some more photographs and film clips as this program continues, but right now it's time to get on the trail of Ed Wood Jr. And here is our tour guide. The next voice you hear, the next person you see is our guide, Mr. Conrad Brooks.
As I said before, I met Ed in the year 1948. It was a coffee shop. It was on Hollywood Boulevard and Sunset, the beginning of Sunset Boulevard. And there was a movie house there at the very corner. It's called the Vista Theater. And up the street from there was the old Monogram studio, where, they shot Bowery Boys, the Charlie Chan series, Joe Palooka, Charlie Chan, Bomba the Jungle Boy, and then you're familiar with Monogram Pictures. Well, I worked there. I did a couple of shows there, I think, called Jalopy and Clip Wings. So there was a coffee shop down the street from there, and Ed lived above that, next to the theater, and above the theater was a little place there he used as an office. And it was Edward D. Wood Jr.'s Productions. Right. So he was also, living there as well, living quarters. And it was very cheap rent there at that time. So it's a little coffee shop. Ed would be there every morning. And at that, I used to come there and, we glanced at each other and we looked like a couple of Hollywood characters. So we just struck up a conversation. And I told him I did a couple of shows here at Monogram. I asked me if I was an actor. I said, "What, do I look like one?" So he said, well, he was doing a play at that time, a thing called Casual Company. And he had posters put up around town. In fact, he had one inside the coffee shop. So that's how we struck up our conversation. And from there on, he said, I'd catch him there a couple of mornings. And he said, well, come up visit me sometimes. And so I did, my brother and I told my brother Henry, I said, I met a fellow, he's a movie producer. Because I just got in town maybe a few months ago. Coming to Hollywood, I didn't expect to meet anybody important. It's like I was coming out here for a couple of weeks. I was lucky to meet a dog on the street. But here's a man telling me he's going to be a big movie producer, director and all that. And he's praising me. He says, oh, you're going to be in my pictures. I like you and all that. You're a nice guy. And I said, well, you're a nice man to tell me that. So we became great friends. We went over to visit Ed Wood, and he was telling us about, and he was trying to get into the business as an actor. He had an agent. He made a few connections, but nothing happened for him. And like he did tell me one time, he says, Conrad, the only way to make it in Hollywood, you got to make your own pictures. Yes, buddy. The other thing that comes into my mind, as I recall, when I did that picture, Glen or Glenda, when Ed called and said I would be on this picture, and I had to go down and meet George Weiss, so he would okay it, and I would sign contracts that I would appear in this motion picture. Of course, when I went there, I talked to George, and he agreed that I would be in the movie, and I signed contracts. And so he told me the story was pretty similar to, based a little bit on Christine Jorgensen's life story. Of course, I wasn't quite too familiar with the story, and I wasn't quite sure what kind of movie I was going to appear in. But after all, I'm working for Ed Wood, and he was my director. So, okay, so I decided, okay, I'd go along with it. And I just want to check out a little bit about Weiss, what sort of pictures he made, because they told me he made quite a few movies from the 40s on and into the 50s. So I found out he made pictures like Test Tube Babies, Devil's Sleep, and also Girl Gang, and quite a few other pictures. But these were primarily pictures made for third-rate theaters, like on Main Street, not on Broadway. Broadway was considered where you always showed your first-run movies, but Main Street were the third-run theaters, where people would go there and they would be open 24 hours, and it's a place place to go to sleep for a quarter. And also, a lot of the George Weiss pictures would show in the burlesque theaters. You know, they would have like the Burbank Theater, the Follies Theater. Those were strictly burlesque, and between the shows, they would play movies. So, anyway, when I understand, once we just getting near production there, and also found out that Weiss, his pictures, he would make them in 2 days. 2-day shoot, and they'd go around the clock and put this thing, complete feature, in 2 days in a can. And then within a month or so, it was ready for the market. Well, Ed decided, when he decided he was going to make this picture for George Weiss, he says, look, George, he says, this is, based on Christine Jorgensen, somewhat. But actually, it was really based on Ed Wood's life story. Anyway, he, being a very unique story, it's never been told before, so he said, look, George, we got to go much more than just 2 days on a picture like this. And he said, at least 4 or 5 day shoot. And he said, besides, I'm going to get Lugosi in this picture. And first thing entered George Weiss's mind, he said, that's money. That's going to cost me money. George Weiss would make these pictures for maybe $1.25. I mean, real low budget stuff. But Ed boosted up to $1.99. So, and George right away started, thinking about that money. So anyway, he decided, okay, he went for that extra bucks and extra days of shooting, and went along and made this motion picture, Glen O'Glendon. Of course, when I was told that Bela Lugosi was going to be in this movie, then I didn't feel so bad. I said, if Lugosi's going to be in it, then I'll be in it. And he's my favorite actor. So, I went along with the picture, which I had no regrets. And I remember about a week after the picture was finished, we'd go down and watch the rushes, the dailies, and all that. And when I seen Ed, I said, Ed, how's the picture look? It says, great, great. He says, Paramount is going to buy this movie. Would you believe it, 35 years later, they did buy that picture? After being on the market since 1953, this thing kept playing over and over and over. I used to go down on Main Street, and those third-rate theaters, but once in a while, you'd be surprised. The major theaters would book this picture. They break through, and because of the subject, they played it, and also having Lugosi in the picture, that also was a big help. So, I would go down on Main Street, and that damn picture would run in one theater for 3 months. Then it would go off. You come back a month later, there's Glen O'Glendon showing. And this went on like for many great years. So you can see Ed got his name around. His pictures got around before Player 9 from Outer Space. So Ed did very good in that respect. He got Weiss to come up with more money, put a little bit more time, more days on the picture, and plus he got Lugosi, had Lyle Talbot.
So he was happy with the finished product on that
Ed Wood?
Glen O'Glendon?
Oh yes, he was very happy. And like he said, after all, it helped him to, advance further to make other motion pictures. Like he finally did Jailbait, Sinister Urge, Bride of the Monster, and it really kept. I mean, it was like I said. I mean, it was low budget, but Ed managed to make these pictures, and he got them to the theaters.
Was he making much money?
Well, he didn't make a lot of money. There was a market for these pictures. But, Ed, what do you mean by a lot of money? What is a lot of money?
I don't know. By those standards? Any idea how much he made?
Well,
on a movie
considering
like
when a guy came to Hollywood, didn't know a soul, he wanted to get into the picture business, and how many millions of people come to Hollywood, hopefully they can do writing or produce films or actors, but it did say that he was going to be in the business. He was going to get into game. He was going to be another Orson Welles. And like I say, the man, he didn't have any kind of money, no money at all. He was in the service. When he came out of the service, he came to Hollywood. So he had no money at all. And I actually had, I don't think he had much, he had no kind of training as a director himself. He was just primarily a writer. But naturally, when he did raise money to do pictures on his own, he had to direct his own films. He couldn't hire a movie director or some guy to do a good script. So it all had to be. He had to package the whole thing, his writing, and put the thing together and go from there. And he had to do it, like I say, in so many days. And hopefully that the picture would go on the market and it would do good business. Because if it did, it would help him raise more money for his future projects.
He was successful on his own terms.
Yes.
He did what a lot of people
Very well. I mean, considering he had people like Bela Lugosi, Lyle Talbot, Vampira, way before Elvira, and Criswell, Tom Keene. We mentioned Lyle Talbot. We all know Lyle Talbot, the guy that was nominated for an Academy Award in a picture called 20,000 Years in Sing Sing. Worked with Spencer Tracy. Tom Keene, who worked for DeMille, who big pictures for Paramount. Then the guy finally became a cowboy star. So Ed was surrounded by a lot of good people. So it gave Ed confidence that he could do something, which he did. He put these people to work, and he paid everybody, which I respect the man. He wanted to go union on his pictures. It wasn't his bit, I'll pay you later. Ed always wanted to pay his people off. He was strictly a good union man. And he didn't want to go shoot pictures, say, hey, I'll pay you later, and, maybe give you a contract or a piece of the picture. Forget it, because you never see that money.
Yeah.
So I salute Ed Wood for making, like I said, making union pictures in Hollywood.
Do you think he was a happy person?
Happy? I would think so. I don't see why he would be unhappy. He did his thing in Hollywood. He wanted to make motion pictures. And how many people actually tried and never made it? Ed Wood did make it in Hollywood. He made the pictures then. They were released to the movie houses. And throughout the years, they're on television, film conventions. And to this very day, he's not with us anymore, but his pictures are still playing. So he's got no regrets. For myself, I've got no regret either. I mean, after all, he gave me a reputation. I'm the guy who worked in the worst movie. My brother.
Look at this.
Oh, there. Oh, yes, Tommy. That's Tommy. The drummer. She used to play drums.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. She, in a band.
So it was a man or a woman?
This here?
Yeah. Was she really a woman?
Half
or
woman,
really a
half man.
That's really honest truth, yeah.
Well, she had the truth.
That was the, yeah.
She had the truth.
That's interesting.
It is safe to state that the grandchildren of some of the people in this dinner will not be born on Earth. They come from the bowels of hell, a transformed race of walking dead, zombies guided by a master plan for complete domination of the Earth. Plan 9 from outer space. Starring the most nightmarish cast ever, Bela Lugosi, the seductive Vampira, and Tor Johnson as the Walking Dead.
Turn off your electrode gun! No! No! Stop him, Dennis!
I can't get it. It's jammed.
Stop him, you fool!
Bullets bounce off their bodies. Rockets, missiles, jets cannot stop their death ships. What earthly power can stop this terror? For a glimpse of things to come, see this blast of screen suspense. For it could be happening right now.
Opinion of Plan 9 from outer space. Your personal opinion.
Well, at first, I was very critical of these pictures because I enjoyed beat pictures all my life. Personally, I was hoping it would be something a little special, much better than some of these other beat pictures. And I'd say, you know, because all my friends were involved in these pictures, Ed Wood, people like Lowell Talbot, which I worked with, and knowing Lugosi, Tor Johnson, Tom Keene. You know, I was saying, well, I hope, you know, all these superstars in this one particular picture, I say, geez, it would be, you know, while working on a picture, it would think, well, it might be an epic. You got all these important people in this one little movie. But then after seeing it myself, I don't know, and like I say, it was in spots. It was good, and then it would get flat. Then it would go from first to second gear, then back to first gear. So it wasn't exactly my type of picture at first. And I thought, well, I could be wrong. So I paid it no mind. But after I'm in the picture, and I said, well, I had to like it somewhat. So naturally, as we know, throughout the years, what was it, 20 years later or so, you know, when they start to review these pictures, like these two brothers came out with a book, The 10 Worst Motion Pictures of All Times. And that really started everything. I mean, that was the beginning when the book came out. 10, you know, pictures. And of course, Plan 9 getting top billing.
Right.
So of course, I heard about it, and I guess people, somebody showed me the book on it, and okay, and I accepted it. It's a bad picture, but I thought maybe that'll be it. That'll be it, no more. It'd be, you know, a book, and that's it. Then the next thing I knew, 6 months later, that it was going to be on television. Eventually, I knew it would be on TV, but maybe sometime like 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
People ready to go to work, right? They're going to overlook this picture. So, but a surprise, the TV guy, 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It ain't time yet. This was like at 12 o'clock. And then it was going to come on at 6 p.m. and then 11 o'clock. 8 time. A picture like a low-budget movie that was maybe filmed for about 15,000. No more than 20.
Right.
15, I would think. One time I thought 50. Then after I analyzed it, I said, nah, this is probably a $20,000 picture. But not bad for that sort of a movie, considering he had all these big names in this picture.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, 3 days, I was really surprised. And so, and after that 3 day, you know, screenings, 3 times a day, and then a couple of months later, it's back on television.
That's right.
I couldn't believe it. Plenty of airtime. And this thing went on for exactly 5 long years in Los Angeles. Every second month or third month, it played. Whether it was at midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning or back to 11 o'clock. And this friend of mine in New York City, Richard Borjowski, he says to me, Connie, he says, in New York we played every second Saturday for 3 long years. I couldn't believe it. Really? Then, naturally, I was invited to the theaters. Movie house, you know, they played Plan 9, these revival theaters, and they would invite me down, you know, make a speech, go on stage. Boy, I felt like an important guy. But I couldn't, it didn't hit me yet. I said, a picture like this, I can't believe it. I mean, how can it go for a picture like this? But when I went to that theater, it was full house. You could, I mean, it was sold out. All the tickets, I mean, that place was packed. I couldn't believe it. I'm in this theater for this kind of a movie. But, and not only that, I had to go up on stage, right, and say a few kind words about the picture. So, went up there and had to say what I did. Then the picture came on. I'm going back to my seat. Would you believe it? Somebody sat in my seat. You think they'd give it up to me? No way. So I said, it's all right. He's here to see the movie. He's entitled to that seat. So, all right. So the picture played. And after the picture, I mean, they just had a good time. They were, you know, applauding the picture, or laughing. They were having a lot of fun. They really enjoyed it. I couldn't believe it at first. But I'll tell you something. After that, I enjoyed it. They finally converted me.
And now you like.
Now I like the picture. So I got to go along with the movie people. They like it. It's got to be some good to it. And for Ed's sake, because like I say, here's a guy in Hollywood who wanted to make it in a big way, and so and he did it. He stayed with them low budget pictures. Now if he'd gone to say he would have got lucky after his second picture would have made a $100,000 movie. He went for pictures like Plan 9 and 5-day shoots would have been forgotten. Ed Wood would have been just another movie producer. Now he's somebody.
That's right.
I like Tor very much. Of course, I did my first picture with Tor on The Bride of the Monster. We became, from there on, we became very good friends. I went out to his house, I had dinner. I met his family, his son, his wife. And of course, I don't know whether you realize or not, the man was from Sweden. Well, we got a pet here. Speaking of Tor Johnson, well, wait, that's a small one. But Tor was a huge person. You know, he's 400 pounds.
Wow.
Very big man, but a big heart. So he came out to visit when I was living in Santa Monica. He came down, met my Ruthie, my ex-wife, my daughter, Connie. And he came down, you know, many different times. And he, of course, he was sort of a gourmet cook. And he would help my wife and teach her some about these Swedish specialties. And at one time, he thought he would open up a pizza parlor. It would be called the Swedish. He would be known as the king of pizzas, and put all the good stuff on it.
Did he do it?
He had some ideas. He's always wanted to promote something. Well, actually, you know, he came to America. He didn't have too much money. He had a few dollars, and he from Sweden. When he came here, was to New York City, and so he lived in New York. And he was always in his early days. He worked as a piano mover, moving furniture around. So he did that for I don't know, for a few years. And then he finally decided to get into wrestling. And so he wrestled in America, and he got a reputation as a Swedish angel. And so he became a headliner. And he was also booked, he went to Hong Kong. And he wrestled over there for the championship. And it was before 140,000 people. Then he came back to America, and he was wrestling, and as he was getting a little older, he decided, well, I'm going to try the movie business. Because Tor always wanted to get in where there's a chance to make some big money. So he got a taste of it in wrestling, so then he decided he'd try Hollywood. Well, I guess then he decided to come out to Hollywood and try his luck in the motion pictures. And of course he played mainly bit parts. Then he finally got connected with Ed Wood, and then they would tell him, well, you know, you're going to get top billing, you know, starring roles. And Tor said, wow, you know, there's a chance to make some big dollars. So Tor figured right away, I'm going to make some big money in Hollywood. But not realizing this, because, you know, I got with Tor, we became very good friends, so he was telling me a lot of these things. He said, geez, you know, I'm going to be starring in these pictures. And he thought, geez, you know, all they're offering me is $100. And I said, look, Tor, we're $100 players. What do you expect? You know what I mean? I said, you got to be around for a while. But I said, but here's your chance. Be in these low-budget pictures, get yourself established. You build a name. And I said, you know, eventually you might hit some biggies where you'll make some big dollars. But he couldn't see it that way. But he worked in these low-budget pictures for Ed Wood. But the worst thing ever happened was that once he was hired as an actor working for Ed Wood, during the middle of the shooting of the picture, the son of a gun would walk up to Ed and says, Ed, I can't work anymore. And they said, why? He says, I can't work for $100 a day. He says, you're going to have to give me more money or I'm going home. And not realizing it, that, you know, he thought Ed had a lot of money. You know, a lot of these guys around town would shoot these low-budget pictures maybe in a couple of days, but Ed would try to make them in 5-6 days. And he would, you know, put name players in these pictures. And he thought, Jesus, you know, Edwin must have a lot of money. So he'd tell Ed, no more work unless you pay me double my money. Instead of getting 100, I want 200. So that really created a problem for Ed Wood, because Ed himself was working on a shoestring. So anyhow, Ed had to, like I say, hold up the picture for maybe a couple hours. And knowing Ed Wood, he go out there and raise that money. He had to, he had no choice. He started demanding a picture and he realized, I gotta finish this movie. So he went out and got the money and said, okay, Tor. But there was times when Ed, every time he made a picture, he gave it a second thought about using Tor, because he figured, always has a problem about that money. But Tor was a wonderful guy, good friend, and I certainly miss him. He died here a few years ago, but he was a very nice man. Well, buddy, this place was at that time, and the year you mentioned, 1954 was it? Right. About Bela Lugosi doing The Bride of the Monster. Well, this is where the interiors were shot, right here at this Ted Allen studio. Incidentally, Ted Allen also was the photographer on the picture. The first day, after the first day, Gil came down, closed the sets here, because the money, there was no money in the bank. So they had to close the production. They suspended the picture. So when the picture resumed, they brought in another cameraman, William Thompson, who also photographed Glen Oglenda. Well, this is the studio where it all started here, with Bela Lugosi coming here, working for Ed Wood. And I remembered distinctly the one evening a week or so before the shooting started that I was leaving the office and I was going to my car right down the street here. You can pick up where those two automobiles are. My car was parked there, and Bela was just coming up the hill in his cloak, his black hat, and his cane. So, and I saw Bela and Mr. Lugosi, and he shook my hand. That's the first thing he did, shook your hand. And other times, he wouldn't talk to you unless he knew your name. He had to call you by your name first. Real fine gentleman. Here, there was a parking lot right in here. And of course, that was the sound stage as you go up this ramp. And of course, that's where it says KFWB was the sound stage. And you can see, it was a good-sized studio. Like I mentioned before, it's Ted Allen's studio. And I was saying he was a pretty popular photographer in those days. And this is exactly where I saw Bela Lugosi, and it brings back a lot of wonderful memories. It all seemed like it was yesterday, where Eddie Wood lived here. And when he moved here, this was a lucky day for him, because he got a chance to meet the man that lived right down here on the bottom floor, below Ed Wood, Reynolds, Mr. Reynolds, who Ed convinced him that he was interested in Ed Wood's background. When Ed moved here, he was a movie producer. So, he wanted to know about Hollywood. So Ed suggested, he could, if he would be interested, financing a motion picture. So, so Ed convinced him. Well, Ed really had to convince him, because Ed was behind his rent like 6 months. And that was the only way to work it off. So if the guy would finance the picture, he could take so much off the top, so he could get caught up with all his back rent money. So this was a lucky place for Ed Wood.
And that picture was Plan 9, right?
Plan 9 from outer space.
Coming over
So
here?
all because Ed moving in here, and he was here like for almost pretty close to a whole year. And then from here he moved into the valley. But it was a beautiful place. Incidentally, Ed Wood did tell me that Marilyn Monroe also lived in this place at one time, her early days in Hollywood. And one of the most shocking things ever did happen to me when I did come to see Ed Wood, I came here one evening around 11 o'clock in the evening, and I'd ring the bell, rap on the door, and I heard a voice, who's there? And I looked up, it was strange, this is I'm outdoors, right? Ed's usually inside. And I looked up, and he was sitting on a roof in drag. And he was staring up at the sky, at the stars, and he was just enjoying himself up there for a few minutes. And he said, "I'll be right down."
This is the last apartment where Ed Wood lived before his death in 1978. It's located at the corner of Cahuenga and Yucca Streets in Hollywood.
Yeah, buddy, this is the old place, and I haven't been here 115. Like I said, I haven't been here since
11, 12 years.
12 years, that's right. In fact, that's the last place where I seen Ed Wood. The last place. And as you see the outside, the inside, and I guess we can, our director, if he likes, we can go out there and get the outside scene. It used to be patio, but I see that they blocked it off right.
That's it.
Yeah. Well, this is great. Michael likes this. Mike, you can get this. That's your shot right there. From Ed's apartment to where the back windows are. And before I forget to tell you, Mike, Kathy lives not too far from here. So that's no doubt brings her back a lot of memories. I think of things then I go say and I won't forget. Hi, Sonny. Yeah, it's a good idea to get it, but you don't know how long it's... Yeah. You know, it seemed like there was another house here, something like that. Well, it must have, yeah, because that's new, isn't it?
Yeah.
Unless that
Right
motel
there.
was there. Maybe here, yeah. Because there was some friends that, he would, a woman, some old gal would come over. It's got the lens wide open. The lens wide open. Well, it was strange. Well, it was strange.
When did you first find out that he was into that?
Let's see now, let me think. He's not photographing. When I went to visit Ed Wood, it's first time I went up there, he was in regular clothes, and I think the second time we came up there, he was dressed. He said he would. Oh, I know what it was. He said he wanted to go in his dressing room and dress. We thought maybe we're just going to change shirts or something, or maybe we're going out someplace. And he said, no, he stepped out as a girl. He said, I feel more comfortable.
What'd you think about that?
Well, it was strange at first, because like I said, I was very naive. I didn't know that much about these things. Young guy at 17. I figured, well, better learn now. Better now or never. Right? So it didn't bother me. I figured, hey, I never gave it a thought. So Ed is a friend of mine, so whatever, if he wants to run around in with clothes, without clothes, that's fine.
Why do you suppose he liked the Angora sweater so much?
Well, he liked those bright colors, and plus we did say they were very furry. Incidentally, I think he did mention that when he put that sweater on. He says he loved it very much. It's very furry. Made him feel good, and he was able to work better. He was able to get at that typewriter. It seemed like when he was dressed as a woman, he would get into his work, typing scripts, stories, and ideas would come to him. Seemed like it would inspire him. that's what it took to do it.
That's great, huh?
He didn't need to wear women clothes. He was a good-looking man, but I suppose he tried it to see if he would be a good-looking woman.
It didn't quite work out.
It was rather strange, but he enjoyed wearing women clothes.
Yeah. Did he ever tell you why he did that, or?
To wear women clothes? Seemed like he did after we became good friends. When he was a little boy, at that time, he had that feeling he wanted to be I imagine he felt like he wanted to be a little girl.
That makes sense.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
Did he ever wear any kind of women's clothing at all when he made movies? Or did he just?
Only during the shooting of Glen O'Glenda,
Okay, because
which
he
the
had
picture
to
was in
apart,
1952, was with Bela Lugosi. Okay,
Right. That's good.
okay.
Uh,
Oh, how did he get along with Bela?
yeah, did he have?
Oh, well, yeah, it would be no problem. Man made 3 motion pictures with Lugosi. And these, after all, Bela was up in age, and Lugosi wasn't getting that much work. But like Ed said, he says, after all, you're a legend, and you're a well-known man. And so he said, well, he suggested, why not try Vegas? And Ed said, let me be your regular promoter. And Lugosi said, fine. And Ed did set up deals with the Silver Slipper in Las Vegas. And he got him booked in Vegas. And then sometime shortly after that, which really was a big deal, but whether he sold the deal or not to these other theater owners, that he would take Lugosi across the country and making personal appearances on stage, in the Dracula outfit, and also bring along the original casket that was in the motion picture Dracula.
Right.
So I think they did they started out making a few appearances, but I don't think they never made it to the East Coast.
I think if Ed Wood had lived, would he be embarrassed by his popularity today, or do you think he would enjoy it?
Very good. Very good. No, nothing embarrassed Ed Wood. Ed was a fighter. A real fighter. If he wanted to do something, he'd do it. Just give him time. It's like he always said, give me $1.99, I'll start a motion picture. No, he wouldn't be embarrassed. He'd be happy. He'd love to see his name in print. It's like any motion picture actor or writer or producer. Good or bad, his name was in the prints.
Very good.
Jailbait, the shocking story of boy-crazy girls and gun-crazy guys.
What makes you think you can get away with it? Let us worry about that, bud.
I'm through for the night, Mac. I'll be on my...
The most feared of our modern underworld. Men who hate the law and abuse even those they love.
So what's with him?
He shot his first cop.
See the siren-screaming, bullet-blazing thriller, Jailbait.
What was your opinion of Criswell?
Well, he was a showman. I liked the man. He was a very nice man. He was very popular. You know, he used to appear on Johnny Carson's show. He was like at least once a month. He was Mr. Showman.
That's true, yeah.
He come out there and you know, big fella, tall man as I recall, very big man, well dressed, and you can feel that his appearance was around.
Do you think any of his predictions ever came true?
Well, I'll tell you, one of them, and it was Plan 9 from Outer Space. And he had a TV show that was on every Sunday evening. And after he completed his role in the movie Plan 9, he mentioned that he just, in fact, he didn't say he was in the picture. It was very strange. But I probably, reason why, the figure was plugging the movie, right?
Right.
So he would roll off and say this, and this would happen, this would, and he says that now there's a motion picture, Grave Robbers from Outer Space. He says, hold on, because you're going to hear about this picture in a big way in time. He said it's going to be a very successful movie. Grave Robbers from Outer Space.
Which later was changed.
He made that prediction.
Well, he was
This
right
was on his
once.
TV show.
Hollywood picture, huh?
Yeah. So he loved the old timers, see, and so he left it like on a set. He very seldom ever told an actor what to do. He more or less left it up to you. Figure, hey, look, you're an actor, you're a pro. That's why I hired you, for you to do it.
Right.
Very seldom. I mean, he might come in and maybe with the dialogue or something, you know, say, well, I want you to say this or say that. But as far as when the actor's up there performing, he left it up to the actor himself.
In later years, how did Ed Wood make his living most of the time?
Later years, this was, how much later?
Well, it's like in the 60s, 70s.
70s. Well, he worked as a cab driver for the Yellow Cab. Of course, I gave them a plug, but they're out of business now.
So it doesn't matter.
Really. So, drove a cab. And he also worked, he got a job, they had the Yorty campaign. Remember the Mayor Yorty?
yes.
So he worked for Mayor Yorty.
What, you write campaign literature?
Literature, you know, whatever. He worked in the office there.
You also
Sending out literature, you know, campaigning and things like that.
Did you later get into like writing hardcore novels, porno, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, first he started out writing for movie magazines, X-rated movie magazines. Well, they weren't actually
They call them
X-rated.
girly magazines, right?
They were nudies. They weren't considered X-rated stuff.
So he'd write stories.
Movies did that.
Right.
The books. It was movie magazines and layouts. He was doing these short stories, and he also did. One guy was very impressed with Ed's material, and Ed came in, and I think he did a couple of books, the whole layout. His, books, you know, with girlies and stories. So he got pretty good bucks in those days. I was surprised. He got like, and this is what, in the 60s?
Mm-hmm.
Was it 60s? Yeah, he got as much as $1,000 for one of his little books that he wrote. And he did that book maybe in about 3 days. Burn, baby, burn.
So he was fast.
Well, he needed that money. He needed that cash.
So he made more money on books
So yeah,
than
he got, I
he
think
did
it was $700 to $1,000 bucks. That's very good money. So I said, boy, he says, I never made this kind of money before, and that was quick. So then he started to do more books. That's why I think he actually did that. That was for the bucks. It was the money. He ain't working, you know, and whatever you got, it goes quick.
Right.
Money doesn't last too long. And it always, you know, in those days, he was drinking more than ever. And, you know, and things were getting higher, much higher. And Ed had a pretty nice place where he lived, had a swimming pool, had his 3 little dogs. He He enjoyed animals. And he was married to Kathy. And he did have a nice little home he was renting in North Hollywood. And his friends came by. Many of them drank his liquor.
Yeah.
Because, you know, most of his friends were in showbiz, actors. How often do you work? When you do work, not that much. So they would come out for a handout. Hey, what do you got? You know, and he was a generous person. He'd feed you, you're hungry. I mean, he's helped me a lot. If I need a place to stay, sure, there's the couch. Yeah, so, but things got, but there for a while he was working a lot. And then all of a sudden, suddenly, I don't know, about maybe a year later, whatever, he wasn't doing hardly anything. Then he just finally went kaput. He had that nice place, he lost it, and had a little house, and I came there and he was gone. Then I checked with Duke Moore, who was also one of Ed's actors and friend, because most of actors, all Ed's actors were all mostly buddies and good friends. So then I went down to see Duke. I said, geez, went to see Ed and he's not living there anymore. He said, well, he's living there on Yucca and Cahuenga. And so he said, that's his new place. In fact, he was with Duke Moore for a short time. But Duke said, he's got the animal, and I got a small apartment. So, okay. So he told me where Ed was. I went over there. And when I went over there, I gave it a second thought if I should enter that building.
It's that bad, huh?
Bad. Yeah. I felt, geez, I better have a gun if I go in that building. I mean, it was all these strange-looking characters. You know, I mean, they're weirdos. They were, well, whether they were on, I don't know, just a strange place. You know, so anyway, I went through there. I was maybe I'm at the wrong place. Maybe Duke gave me the wrong address. I went to see Ed, and I stepped in his apartment, and it was, boy, I said I couldn't believe it. Ed was just, I mean, it was puffy, blown up from all, drinking heavy, very heavy. And boy, it hurt me because I knew this guy, he was like, we're, brothers. So it shocked me. And him and Kathy were drinking very heavy. No money. Place was a mess. Like a cyclone hit that place. But Ed performed, talked, and as though nothing, he was in good spirits. Good spirits. But then I came back another time to visit Ed. But it looked to me, I felt, hey, I hope this guy pulls out. Because like I said years ago, he did. He wasn't that far down, but this was rock bottom. But then the next I've heard that I spoke to someone, and they said, did you hear? I hear what? Ed Wood died. That was it. Ed Wood's gone. But we have his pictures, his motion pictures.